There's something about the way the night softens the world that makes everything feel a little kinder, isn't there? Even before you reach the archive, that gentleness has already begun to wrap itself around you. The air is cooler, touched by a faint smell of old leaves and distant rain, and the path ahead feels almost like it's guiding you instead of the other way around. You take one slow breath, and then another. And with each step, the night seems to grow quieter in your favor, as if it recognizes you and wants to ease your shoulders just a little more. The lamps along the walkway glow in muted gold, not bright enough to make the night step back, but warm enough to invite you forward. They've always been like that, soft-edged, never harsh, as though they understand how tired you are at the end of a long day. Their light falls onto the stone in gentle patches, like small islands of safety you can hop between, listening to the faint echo of your own footsteps. There's something comforting in that rhythm, in knowing exactly where your body is, exactly where you're going, without any expectation to rush. As you walk, you might notice how your mind begins to slow down too. Thoughts that felt tangled earlier start loosening at the edges, the way knots do when they finally realize they're not being pulled anymore. Maybe you even wonder, why does returning here feel so natural, so familiar? And maybe the answer is simpler than you expect. This place has always held you quietly, without asking anything in return. Ahead, the archive waits, its tall shape outlined against the moonlit sky. During the day it can feel grand, impressive, but at night it becomes something else entirely. It feels like a refuge, a kind of home for the parts of you that don't speak loudly. The windows glow faintly from within, the way a fireplace does when the last log is settling, and you can almost imagine the entire building breathing out in slow, steady waves, welcoming you back. Your hand rests briefly on the door as you arrive. The wood is smooth and surprisingly warm, as if it has absorbed years of quiet stories and gentle moments. You can feel a subtle hum beneath your palm, a sense of life within the walls. That's always been the magic of this place. It never feels empty. Even in the deepest hours of the night, it holds a presence, calm and patient. When you push the door open, the sound is soft, almost whisper-like. A faint sigh of hinges that greet you instead of resisting. And for a moment, standing in that threshold, it feels as if the whole archive pauses just to acknowledge your arrival. The dim light, the sleepy air, the scent of old paper and polished wood, everything blends into a quiet invitation. You've made it here again, to the one place where the night doesn't ask you to be alert or strong or anything other than yourself. And as you step inside, leaving the outside world behind, a small thought drifts through your mind like a leaf settling on water. Maybe this is what safety truly feels like, the slow exhale that comes when nothing is expected and everything can finally rest. There's a certain quality to the light of a lantern, something softer, more human, as if it remembers the warmth of the hand that carries it. That's the first thing you notice when you step inside. A small, steady glow drifting toward you from the far end of the hall. It moves slowly, patiently, almost like it's in no hurry to reach you, because it already knows you're safe here. And then he appears, the night watchman. Not in a dramatic way, but the opposite. Quiet, familiar, reassuring. A presence that feels a bit like the soft weight of a blanket settling over your shoulders. His steps are unhurried, his posture relaxed, and the lamp he carries paints gentle circles of gold across the polished floor. He always greets you in the same way, with a warm half-smile that doesn't need words. Somehow that smile alone lets a little tension slip out of your body. It's the kind of expression only someone who has watched over this place for many years could offer. Steady, unflustered, deeply kind. The glow of his lamp reaches you before he does. It touches your hands, your face, your tired mind with a warmth that's not just physical. It's the warmth of being seen without being judged, of being welcomed without effort. And maybe, just maybe, you notice how your breathing softens the moment that light brushes your skin. He stops a few steps away, not too close, not too far, just the perfect distance for you to feel accompanied without feeling crowded. And there's something almost sacred about the silence between you. It's not empty. It's not awkward. It's the kind of silence where the world finally stops demanding anything from you. Sometimes he tilts his head slightly, as if checking in on you without needing to ask aloud. Are you all right? Are you tired? Are you here to rest? But he doesn't force the questions. He just lets them drift quietly in the air, giving you room to answer in your own time. Or not at all. The lamp swings gently at his side, its flame flickering softly. The light moves across the walls, revealing patterns you didn't notice before. The warm grain of the wood, the faint shimmer of old brass fixtures, the dust motes drifting like tiny stars. Everything seems calmer in that glow. Even the shadows look peaceful, softened by the Watchman's steady presence. You realize, not for the first time, that he is the anchor of the archive at night, the guardian of quiet moments, the one who keeps the vastness of the building from feeling empty or overwhelming. With him here, the space feels smaller, more intimate, almost like a single room instead of endless halls. He nods once toward you, a silent gesture of welcome, of reassurance, of you're safe now. And something inside you loosens, a knot you didn't notice, a pressure you didn't name. That's the strange magic of the Watchman. He doesn't fix anything. He doesn't try to change your mind. He simply exists beside you in a way that makes you feel protected without needing to ask for it. As he turns slightly, motioning for you to follow deeper into the archive, the lantern light stretches ahead of you like a small path carved out of the darkness. And in that tender glow, you understand something, simple and comforting. You're not walking alone tonight, not here, not in this place where someone watches the quiet for you. There's a particular hush that settles over the archive's deepest aisles, a kind of soft, velvety quiet that you feel more than you hear. As you follow the Watchman's lantern deeper into the building, that silence grows warmer, almost protective, like the air itself understands you've come here to rest, not to search or strive. The first shelves rise up on either side of you, tall and steady, stretching upwards as if they've been standing guard for decades, maybe longer. Their wood has darkened with time, polished by countless quiet nights, and they give off a faint scent of dust and old paper, a scent that somehow makes you feel recognized. Isn't it strange how certain smells can feel like a reassurance, as though they whisper, "You've been here before. You're safe to be here again." You run your fingers lightly along the edge of one shelf. The grain is smooth, warm, almost alive beneath your touch. And for a moment you can't help but think that these shelves have witnessed more of your life than many people have. Not in a literal sense, but in the way they symbolize everything you've carried, sorted, placed, and revisited within yourself. The Watchman lifts his lantern slightly, letting its glow spill across the nearest row of bindings. Some are thick, some thin, some worn, some nearly untouched. An entire landscape of your memories. You notice how varied they are, how none repeat the same shape or color, and something inside you softens. You've lived more than you often give yourself credit for. "Do you remember this one?" the Watchman sometimes asks, not out loud, but with a small gesture of the hand or the way he pauses near a particular spine. And the strange thing is, you do. Maybe not the details, maybe not the dates, but the feeling, that familiar tug of recognition. It's there, quiet, subtle, like a distant echo that doesn't need to be louder to be heard. As you walk, the aisles open gently, revealing little alcoves filled with softer light, or corners where shadows sit calmly, not threatening, but resting. The archive isn't a maze. It isn't meant to confuse you. It's more like a reflection of your own inner world. Vast, yes, but organized in ways that only make sense to you. And somehow that feels comforting, knowing that order exists even if you can't always see it from the outside. The Watchman moves a bit ahead, letting the lantern guide your eyes to newer shelves, ones that seem to hold more recent days. They look different, don't they? A little less worn, a little less settled. But even these feel safe here, tucked in among older memories that hold them gently, as if saying, "It's all right, everyone starts somewhere." You realize something then, something you may have forgotten. None of your experiences are scattered or lost. Not one of them is floating around unattended. Everything you've lived has a place, a resting point, a home within these shelves. And you don't have to carry it all at once. You never did. You let your hand fall back to your side, breathing slowly, deeply. The air here moves softly through the aisles, as though the archive is sighing in relief simply because you've come back to walk among the things that shaped you. And somewhere near the far end of the hall, the Watchman turns slightly toward you, lantern glowing like a warm heartbeat in the dark. He doesn't rush you. He never does. He simply waits, steady and patient, letting you take in the quiet truth of it all. Everything you've lived is held safely here, and tonight you don't have to hold any of it alone. There's a moment, gentle, almost imperceptible, when the Watchman changes direction, guiding you down a quieter corridor where the air feels even softer, as if sound itself grows sleepy here. You can sense it before you see it, that subtle shift, that deepening stillness, like stepping into a pocket of night carved out just for you. At the end of the hallway waits a small wooden door. You've passed it before, but it has a way of only drawing your attention when you truly need it. Tonight, you do, and the Watchman knows. He doesn't say anything. He never needs to. Instead, he lifts his lantern just a little, letting its glow settle over the carved handle, inviting you closer. With nothing more than a warm, steady circle of light. When you push the door open, the hinges sigh softly, not loud, not abrupt, just a quiet exhale, like the room is waking gently to welcome you. Inside, the space is dim, lit only by the lantern and a few flickering candles set deep into the walls. The shadows here don't loom, they rest. They gather in the corners with a softness that feels almost protective. And the air. The air feels like a long breath, held just for comfort. Warm and still. This is the room where your worries go to sleep, not to vanish, not to be denied or scolded or pushed away, but simply to rest, to stop pulling at you, to stop asking to be solved right now. The Watchman steps inside with you, but he doesn't stay close. He moves with slow, practiced steps to a low table in the center of the room, where a small wooden box waits. Its surface is smooth, its edges rounded, as if hundreds of tired hands have placed their burdens there, before yours. He sets the lantern beside it, letting the flame glow through the thin slits carved into the box's lid. And somehow the light looks softer here, diffused, patient. He gestures gently, not a command, just an offering. This is your moment. You sit on the cushioned bench nearby, feeling the fabric settle beneath you, and for a long, quiet breath, you simply exist. No pressure, no expectations. The room doesn't demand explanations for whatever you're carrying. It doesn't ask for reason or logic. The Watchman doesn't ask either. This place was never meant for judgment, only release. When you're ready, you bring your thoughts forward, one by one, not out loud, not even in full sentences, maybe just feelings, shapes. the impressions left behind by a long day or a long week or a long stretch of trying to hold everything together. Each one you imagine placing gently into the box. A worry about tomorrow, a memory from earlier, a tension you've been pretending not to feel, a concern that's been tightening your chest without your permission. The box accepts every one of them with the quiet dignity of something built to hold what's heavy. The watchman stays still, watching over the process with a gaze so calm it feels like a blanket wrapped around your thoughts. When you place the final worry inside, even if you're not sure what shape it takes, he reaches out and slowly, deliberately closes the lid. There's no click, no lock, just a simple, soft sound of wood meeting wood, and suddenly the room feels lighter, not because the worries are gone forever, but because you don't have to carry them tonight. The watchman places his hand briefly atop the closed box, a silent promise. These thoughts will stay here, guarded and asleep until morning, and you are free to walk out lighter than you entered. The candles flicker gently as you stand, their warm glow seeming to murmur a quiet farewell. And as you step back toward the hallway, you feel something subtle but unmistakable. The weight you'd been holding has loosened, and the night feels just a little softer around you. There's a special kind of quiet that settles over the archive once you leave the worry room behind, a quiet so gentle it almost feels alive. It drapes itself around your shoulders the moment you step back into the hallway, a hush that doesn't feel empty at all. It feels aware, present, as though the building itself is, paying attention in the softest possible way. The watchman walks a few steps ahead, lantern swinging lightly, and you follow in that warm circle of light until you reach a wide alcove where he pauses. He doesn't say much, he never needs to, but with a small nod, he invites you to sit on a cushioned bench, tucked beneath a tall, arched window. You settle in, letting the fabric cradle your weight, and almost instantly the stillness deepens around you. The watchman dims his lantern ever so slightly, enough to give the space a dreamlike glow. Then he steps back, giving you the room, but not leaving you alone. He stays nearby, close enough that his presence feels like a steady hand resting gently at your back. For a moment, you simply sit, breathing, letting the night settle, and slowly, very slowly, you begin to notice the archive's quiet sounds. A faint creak from a high beam adjusting to the coolness of the hour. A soft rustle, like a page turning somewhere in the far distance. The muted flicker of a candle flame. Even the watchman's lantern gives off a low, rhythmic hum, subtle enough that you might have missed it on any other night. These sounds don't interrupt the silence, they shape it. They give it texture, warmth, a heartbeat. It occurs to you, gently, without fanfare, that the building feels as though it's breathing. Not literally, of course, but in that slow, organic way old, beloved places often do. A soft expansion here. A sigh-like release there. A rhythm that mirrors your own chest rising and falling. You close your eyes for a moment, just to feel it more fully, and when you do, the sense of being held, truly held, by the space around you becomes almost tangible. The walls don't loom, they embrace. The shadows aren't empty, they rest quietly like old friends keeping to themselves. Maybe the archive breathes because it has learned the patterns of your presence over time. Or maybe you breathe easier, here, and the building simply reflects that back to you. Either way, the harmony of it is comforting, almost hypnotic. It's the kind of stillness that makes you realize how rarely you let yourself be this still, this open, this safe. When you open your eyes again, the watchman is watching you with that familiar expression, the one that says he understands what it means to finally let go of the noise inside your mind. He doesn't disturb the moment. He only shares it with you. His lantern glows softly beside him, casting a warm golden halo that seems to steady the air itself. You let another breath drift out of you, slow, unforced, and notice how your body has begun to melt more fully into the bench, shoulders loosening, jaw unclenching, thoughts slowing to a gentle trickle. It feels almost as if the building is breathing with you, syncing with your rhythm, calming you from the inside out. The watchman eventually steps closer, not to rush you, but to let his lantern light spread across your face like a small, reassuring sunrise. And in that moment, you feel something simple, something quiet, something deeply grounding. You are not alone in the night. The archive keeps watch. The watchman keeps watch. And even the silence itself feels protective. There's a moment, subtle, almost like the soft shift of a dream, when the watchman settles beside you on the bench, lantern resting at his feet. The flame flickers gently, its glow warming the floor in a small circle that feels almost like a campfire between old friends. He doesn't rush into words. He never does. Instead, he lets the quiet breathe for a while, letting it settle around you like a blanket warmed by someone who understands exactly what you need. When he finally speaks, his voice is low and unhurried, textured by years of nights spent in this place. It carries the calm of someone who has seen storms come and go without ever doubting the dawn that follows. "Do you know," he begins softly, "how many nights this archive has weathered?" You don't answer, not with words. You just let your gaze drift to the lantern's glow, letting his voice guide your thoughts the way a gentle current guides a drifting leaf. He tells you about the night the wind howled so fiercely outside that the old windows trembled in their frames. The world beyond the walls was wild, unrestrained, yet inside, the archive stood steady. Books didn't fall, shelves didn't shake. Even the smallest candle flame held its ground. The watchman had walked the halls slowly that night, lantern in hand, checking each room with the patience of someone who knew, deep down, that the building trusted itself. And in that trust, he found his own. Then he speaks of another night, quieter but colder, when frost gathered so thick along the outer walls that it looked like the building had been wrapped in silver. The air outside had been sharp, biting, almost ruthless. But inside, you would have never known. The warmth held, the silence deepened, and the watchman remembers pausing in your favorite alcove just to listen to the soft hum of the heaters, a sound so steady it felt like a heartbeat. As he talks, his stories aren't dramatic. They're not meant to impress. They're simple, grounded moments, the kind you only notice when you pay attention to how safety reveals itself in small, quiet ways. Each story becomes a gentle metaphor, layered without, forcing itself to be one. The storm that couldn't shake the walls, like a reminder that you too have stood through nights that felt louder than you could bear. The frost that never seeped inside, like the resilience you carry even when you feel fragile. The candles holding their flames, like the parts of you that stay warm even when you're tired. He doesn't spell these ideas out. He doesn't need to. The meaning rests in the soft pauses between his words, in the warmth of the lantern, in the steadiness of his presence. You find yourself breathing a little easier as he speaks, not because he promises miracles or solutions, but because he reminds you, quietly, gently, that protection isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the slow walk of someone who checks every corner so you don't have to. Sometimes it's the stillness of walls that remain unshaken. Sometimes it's simply a voice in the dark saying, "You're safe here. This place holds steady for you." When he finishes, he doesn't ask if you understand. He doesn't look for confirmation. He just lets the silence return, softer than before, as if the building itself has been listening and is now nodding along with the truth of his words. The watchman meets your eyes for a moment, lantern light reflected in his calm gaze, and gives a small, reassuring nod, almost like a hand resting over your heart, steadying its rhythm. And in that warm, accepting quiet, you feel it. You are guarded. You are protected. The night here has no sharp edges, only stories that settle you deeper into safety. There's a certain comfort in movement when it's unhurried, when it asks nothing from you except presence. That's what it feels like when the watchman rises from the bench and lifts his lantern again, giving you a gentle nod. Not a command, not a suggestion, just an invitation to walk with him through the quiet night of the archive. You fall into step beside him, and immediately the world seems to settle into a softer rhythm. His lantern swings with a slow, steady arc, its warm glow brushing over the walls and floor in a way that makes shadows drift peacefully instead of lingering with sharp edges. There's a quiet reassurance in the way he walks, deliberate, calm, as though he's memorized every inch of this place and treats each one with a kind of respectful tenderness. This is his nightly patrol, and tonight you're invited to join it. He leads you down a long hallway where the ceiling arches gracefully overhead. The air is cool but not cold. It carries the faint smell of ink, polished wood, and something you can't quite name. Something like the memory of distant rain. Each step you take echoes softly, not intruding on the quiet but blending into it, like footsteps in a dream where the sound is muted, gentle, softened at the edges. The watchman pauses at the first door. He rests his hand on the knob for just a moment, feeling it, listening in that instinctive way keepers of old places do. Then he opens it slowly, letting a thin line of lantern light spill into the room. You peer inside. Everything is in place. The chairs tucked neatly beneath the reading tables, the papers stacked. The window closed, but not rigidly so, nothing disturbed, nothing waiting to alarm you. He gives a small nod of satisfaction and closes the door with the kind of care most people reserve for fragile things. It's not the door he's protecting. It's the peace behind it. As you continue walking, he repeats this quiet ritual at each room. A gentle touch, a thoughtful pause, a soft sweep of lantern light, a silent acknowledgement that everything is all right. And with each door checked, with each corner confirmed to be calm and safe, you feel something in your chest slowly loosening. You hadn't noticed how tightly you'd been holding your breath through the day. You hadn't realized how many invisible weights had been stacked inside your ribs. But the watchman's ritual, patient, reliable, unpressured, unthreads them one by one. There's a profound comfort in knowing that someone, somewhere, is tending to the quiet on your behalf, that you don't have to scan the shadows. You don't have to stay alert. You don't have to brace for anything. He's already done it. He's already ensuring that everything around you is calm, steady, and protected. At one point, as you move down another hallway, he slows his steps just enough for you to notice the rhythm. Left, right, pause, lantern glow, quiet breath. The repetition is almost hypnotic, almost meditative. You begin syncing with it without trying, your body settling into the same pace, a shared rhythm of safety. Eventually, he stops at a final door at the end of a narrower corridor. This one he opens with extra care, as though it leads somewhere special. And when he steps aside, motioning you to look inside, you feel a soft warmth rising in your chest. It's the reading nook, the one you always return to, the one that feels like it was made for you alone. But the watchman doesn't guide you inside. Not yet. He simply lets you see it, the way you might see a bed prepared with fresh sheets waiting in the next room. A promise of rest, a signal that the patrol is complete. Everything has been checked. Everything is safe. And you feel it, simply, deeply, quietly. The night asks nothing more of you. The watchman has made sure of that. There's a quiet kind of tenderness in the way the watchman gestures toward the reading nook, not a grand sweep of the hand, nothing dramatic, Just a small, steady motion that feels almost like someone opening a blanket and saying, "Here, this is for you." You step inside, and immediately the world feels smaller, warmer, closer. This little corner of the archive has always been different from the rest. As if the walls lean in slightly, not to trap you, but to keep the outside world from touching you. The shelves here are lower, the books softer in color, their spines worn with the kind of use that only comes from quiet nights spent in companionship rather than study. The lighting is dim, just enough to paint the room in amber. A single lamp rests on a wooden table, its glow steady and warm, like a candle that has learned to hold its flame without wavering. The air is warmer here too, wrapping around your shoulders with a kind of gentle insistence. And on the cushioned seat beneath the window, the place you always seem to return to, the fabric invites your weight as though it's been waiting for you. The watchman remains at the entrance for a moment, lantern held beside him. He doesn't step in. He doesn't need to. His presence fills the doorway like a quiet promise. I'm here. You can rest. You lower yourself into the seat, and the cushion accepts you with a softness that feels almost human, like a held breath finally released. Your body sinks in without resistance, the way a tired branch sinks into the surface of a river, slowly, naturally, with no effort at all. Outside the small window, the night drapes itself across the sky in deep, velvety shades of blue. The moon is a soft smudge behind a thin veil of clouds, and the darkness beyond the archive feels distant, muted, as if it knows not to intrude on this sanctuary. You let your hands rest loosely in your lap. Your shoulders fall, your breath settles into that slow, quiet rhythm your body had almost forgotten it could make. The watchman places his lantern on a nearby hook, letting its glow spread into the room like a heartbeat warming the edges of a dream. When he walks closer, his steps are measured, almost soundless, and he gives you that familiar, reassuring nod. The one that says, "You're safe now. Everything that needed tending has been tended to." He doesn't speak. Words aren't necessary now. Instead, he checks the window, latch with his fingertips, gentle, practiced, then softens the lamp on the table until the glow is nothing more than a warm whisper. Shadows stretch slowly along the wall, but they're gentle, fluid, as if half asleep themselves. When he finally steps back toward the doorway, he pauses just long enough to make sure you've settled. His silhouette stands against the shimmer of lantern light behind him, steady and reassuring. The shape of someone who keeps watch not out of duty, but out of care. And then, in that signature stillness of his, he eases the door almost closed, not shutting you off from him, but leaving the slightest opening, just enough to let you feel his presence lingering in the hall. Just enough so you know he's right there, guarding the quiet, watching over the night so you don't have to. You settle deeper into the cushion, your body melting into warmth. The glow softens, your breath deepens. The world narrows to a single safe moment. And as your eyes grow heavier, drifting slowly towards sleep, you feel that gentle, unmistakable truth wrapping itself around you. You are protected. You are watched over. And the night, here in this small amber-lit corner of the archive, holds you softly until dreams come to carry you the rest of the way.